Hi everyone, it's Sam, NFTstatistics, and this is your Proof Daily NFT Countdown. Lots to talk about today. Going to talk about Beeple and Gary Vee, Bored Apes, Mutant Apes getting on Blend, a goal for apes sold for almost $1 million. Almost, not quite, but almost $1 million. We'll get into all that. Let's start off though with a quick market overview. Volumes up a small bit. Unique wallets trading NFTs was up a fair bit. I wanted to see where these wallets coming from, wanted to see which projects are the most people trading. And I looked and you had Introducing World app, the World Coin NFT, kind of an open edition that went with it. 3,000 wallets trading that. So that was by far the majority. Then the next few projects were all kind of projects I haven't heard of. So never quite sure where these wallets are coming from, but still more is better than fewer. Nice to see it, I guess. Large cap index was up a small bit after the weekend's rally. Strength in Captains and Azuki. Mid cap index also up a small bit with a lot of strength in Goblins. But with these mid caps, it goes from 0.15 to 0.25. That's a 60% move, but nothing to get too excited about. We also had some strength in Openens Edition and VV checks, as there's a lot of positive energy behind the Jack Butcher ecosystem right now. We'll talk about that in a second. Looking at heavy metal, Yuga came out and said that they were going to reveal the heavy metal. Remember the boxes, the NFTs. You remember they had the different boxes that they gave to people, and they just said, that they're going to be converting those into unique one of one. I don't even know. Unique ones that have their own traits. And they said there are over 1,000 traits. So interesting to see that. That'll be coming later this week. We saw a little bit of rally in the NFT on the back of that. As far as the Jack Butcher ecosystem goes, the Jack Butcher Christie's auction that we talked about yesterday just launched. You can see there are already bids for these three pieces between the 3 and the 6 ETH range. It comes both with the NFT as well as the physical print. So awesome to see that. You got some sympathy strength on the back of it, both in VV checks as well as Opepen. And that one thing that we'll be talking about in the big sales section is that a lot of the Opepens have started to fetch really high prices. We'll talk about that more in a minute. In terms of art projects, this is one of the first times I've done this show. And I've been doing this show since January 12th. And I think this might be the first time where there wasn't an art project, and by art project, I'm talking about GM DAO, Braindrops, and Art Blocks, where a single project did more than 10 ETH of volume. Still a few sales for us to talk about. This one in the upper left, of course, a Chromie Squiggle. Pretty basic Chromie Squiggle, but it's the only Chromie Squiggle sale of the day, 8.6 ETH. So I'm going to show it to you in the upper right. This is an Edifice, which sold for 2 ETH. There were 2 harvest sales, really cool kind of rainbow colors on this lower left, which sold for 5 ETH. And then this Screens by Thomas Lynn Peterson sold for 1.2 ETH. So we get to talk about a few projects that we don't talk about in this section most days. Second thing to talk about, apes are coming to Blend. I said yesterday it was Pudgy Penguins. It's just a guess. Clearly, I don't have information. I'm just guessing based on the information I have and what I see out there. But it was mutants and it was Bored Apes. Here's the announcement from Blur. Now, what you also see here is that there are 2 tweets from Blur. First, a tweet saying it's mutant and Bored Apes, and then it's a quote tweet. Why 2 tweets? It's because it actually took about 15 minutes between the original tweet and when the functionality was actually enabled. And that was kind of interesting because what we got was once the announcement happened, you saw a huge pump in Mutant Apes where the floor went from 9.8, 9.9 to about 10.3. And then, but all of that was people buying in anticipation of other people being able to buy on leverage. You can see here, and you can sort of see, it's a really kind of tiny font, but there were about 50 to 60 trades where the buyers were reaching for the offers, buying them. And again, none of these were from the leverage wallet. These were all people buying in anticipation of leverage. The minute people were able to buy on leverage, you had maybe 5 or 6 sales, but then things started to fall. And it wasn't a huge crash, but you went from about 10.3 back down to about 9.9 ETH. Now, what this chart here looks at is the red dots are all the people who bought on leverage. The blue ones are just the normal trades. And what you can see is the leverage buyers who really bought the top of the market. And from there, it kind of fell. I had a feeling this would happen. When I saw there were 60 people who bought in the 10 minutes leading up to the leverage, I was thinking there's no way that there's 60 new incremental buyers who are just waiting to be able to get leverage in order to buy. There's not going to be enough exit liquidity for the people who have this fast trade on, and it's probably not going to work out. And that was pretty much what happened. Now, if you look at DGODS, and this DGODS chart goes back a few weeks, or I guess 2 weeks, but you can see here, that when leverage was added and people started buying on leverage, that was also the peak of DGODS. So you had another huge buy the rumor, sell the news event. In Mutant Apes, it was buy the event, sell 10 minutes later. Both times, though, you didn't really get enough demand from the leverage to really sustain the rallies. So interesting to see that. I always say, I think the less the rally, when these blend announcements happen, the better. It's just better to have a healthy lending ecosystem as opposed to a ton of people getting these zero APR loans, pumping up the price, buying from real holders who sell it to speculators who end up defaulting, and the NFTs go to airdrop farmers. So overall, I think this is a healthier environment. You can see the DeGod's floor has been doing decently well since then. Third thing to talk about, Gary Vee and Beeple, kind of a crazy partnership. Figured I'd talk about it. First of all, who got this NFT? One thing about Gary Vee is that in VeeFriends, you have a bunch of different types of NFTs. One of them is the Gift Goat. And with Gift Goat, the floor is 7.5 versus the floor for the project around 2.5. But Gift Goat has been getting a lot of airdrops. I believe this was the 12th. OSF did an airdrop that got sent to Gift Goat holders a little while ago. Here's the announcement from VeeFriends, basically saying they're closing the season with a splash. And with a splash, they did close it, doing a piece with Beeple. Here is the piece. It is a Beeple piece of Gary Vee. Think what you will of it. Kind of just a crazy piece. But in any event, a little bit of background on this, and they did tweet about this. I thought that this was kind of interesting. This was not a piece made specifically for this moment. It was actually one of the Everydays by Beeple that was made on May 22nd, 2022. So almost exactly a year ago, this piece was made. They just decided that they were going to drop it to all the Gift Code holders as well as all the Beeple holders. One of the comments they make here, is that Beeple has been making pieces pretty much every single day for 6,000 consecutive days. Absolutely. As someone who makes a daily show, takes the weekends off, that is absolutely mind-boggling to me. But it does create just some incredible discipline. So congrats to people on that. Kind of a side note. If you want to look at how the prices have traded for this piece that has 1,100 editions, you can see, it started out at the 0.4, 0.5 ETH range and then started to get some momentum. People realize this is probably the most affordable Beeple you're going to get. And the floor right now is around 1 ETH. There have been sales between the 1 ETH and 1.2 ETH range. So nice to see that. And then lastly, let's talk about a few notable sales. Starting off with the Gold for Ape, sold for 530 ETH. It was sold to Pimp Capital. Pimp Capital is one of maybe 3 or 4 whales that are just buying all the Grail NFTs in the Bored Ape ecosystem and the Azuki system. So this is kind of in line with a lot of what Pimp Capital has owned. 530 ETH is at the low end of where other Gold for Apes have traded. You can see here, there have been a couple in the 800 range. This one in the lower right, Crazy Eyes, tends to be the least desirable trait in the Bored Ape ecosystem, and the Crazy Eye Gopher sold for 569 ETH. So this was a little bit below that. Now we also know that EB7, Eric, did buy a Gold for Ape recently, and it was part of a trade as opposed to an on-chain kind of 4 ETH transaction. And that one sold in the 400s. So this one is, while it's below all the on-chain trades that we've seen over the past year or so, it is above where Eric got his, which I believe was in the 400 ETH range. Next thing to talk about, Opens are hitting new highs. These 4 Opens have all traded in the past few days for anywhere from 7 to 11.2 ETH. Why are these ones trading at such a premium? It's because these are in the 80 that are a part of Art Project 1, which is the Jack Butcher art. And that clearly, is the first group of art for the Opens and one that will likely have the most provenance going forward. And I just think like right now, the market is waking up to it and really bidding up these 80 NFTs. So you've had some huge sales. These aren't even like the 1 of 1, 1 of 4, even 1 of 5 from the Jack Butcher collection. But still, I think anything that's part of that 80, the floor right now just for those 80 is in double digits. So congrats there, starting to see some real movement. Also seeing 2 1 of 1s, actual 1 of 1s from Jack Butcher that he released a year or 2 ago, both sold in the past 24 hours, one for 10 ETH. This one on the left is called Value, comparing a gold block to ETH address basically. And this one is on the right is called Tool, a stone versus an iPhone. The one on the left sold for 10 ETH. The one on the right sold for 4.6 ETH. I think it's interesting that the Jack Butcher 1 of 1s, and this was true when checks were really hot as well, weren't always fetching the same premium that you're seeing for some of the grails within the projects. Jack does have such cool art though. And I think with him doing this Christie's auction, he's clearly in focus. And lastly, I want to talk about 1 of 1 sale, a new artist that I just thought was really awesome. This piece called Abyss by Nadine Bauer for 3 ETH. She is a underwater marine photographer. Really just an incredible feeling from this image. Here she is thanking the buyer. She says, "I'm crying." This was her Genesis piece on Super Rare. I'll show you a few. She had sold a couple on Foundation, but the first on Super Rare and an all-time high for her. So congratulations. BDB.ETH was the buyer, basically saying, I just bought my favorite photo, added it to my collection. So awesome to see that. Here are a few of her other sales. You can see she's had sales from 0.5 to 2.5 ETH on foundation. So a lot of the similar work, similar look and feel, underground, underwater, and kind of a similar color palette. A little bit about her. She's a 26-year-old biologist from Germany. She says the ocean is where I belong, and she's recently gotten very into photography and started to build a name for herself in the NFT market. Here, this picture, this is just a screenshot from her website, but really fun to look around Nadine's work. I think definitely just really cool, enchanting stuff. So awesome to see that. That is all from me today. I hope you like the show. If you like it, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, tell us what you think in the comments, and we'll be back tomorrow and every weekday, just about every weekday, with another show. Have a great day.